Welcome to Ray Reads, a podcast where I talk about the books I'm currently reading like I'm in a sad little one-man book club. For this episode of Ray Reads, I will be discussing Jen Lian's Discord of Gods. This book, unfortunately, had to dispense with the storytelling format where the characters had previously recounted their adventures verbally. I shouldn't complain since that was the smart choice. We now get to experience the action as it's unfolding. Now the outcome is uncertain, and readers must wonder who will win and who will die. Of course, we have the exception of Thurvashar and Cinera, the co-annotators of this record. I love how Cinera and Thurvashar work together in this book. Their discussions and playful banter in the annotations cement their growing relationship. Cinera and Thurvashar are one of my top favorite couples in this series. They have such an interesting relationship considering their dark pasts and their similar powers of telepathy and empathy. I so appreciate the representation they can provide for asexual couples. To see a love not centered around sex in a novel like this is so refreshing. I love that my girl Tyenso, the new Empress of Quirrh, finally gets the spotlight here. Not only that, but Tyenso has the pleasure of killing her evil husband, Gadrith Doloreth, this time in a more permanent manner. It's only a shame that Thurvashar was not there to claim his revenge against his adopted father as well. Speaking of adoptive parents, I think it is interesting that Tyenso is adopting Tyron and raising him as a Dolorous prince. I was expecting one of the younger couples to adopt the child, so I was pleasantly surprised that Tyenso took him in. I would actually love to have a book about Tyenso raising Tyron and changing the Quirrhos Empire for the better. There is just something about this badass woman that I love so much. What I really love about this book is how neatly it all ties back into the beginning. Of course, Raylo Svar chose to host the end battle and rituals in Rhinora Valley, the setting where Grists united the dragon Reverick with his cornerstone Cynosure to transform him back into a man. The ever-present Stone of Shackles makes its way back into Kieran's hands to allow for his body-swapping victory. Kieran tricks Raylo Svar into stabbing at the blue cornerstone exactly how Kieran himself had done so against Gadrith. And I have to mention that I like how Kieran recalls the song of four brothers, Red, Yellow, Violet, and Indigo, he had once sung to the dragon Sharanikal. But the greatest thing from the first book that makes a reappearance now is Serdier, Kieran's adoptive father, the blind musician. It seems as though he and Seivan, the once dead again goddess of death, plan to rebuild the afterlife. I truly hope there is a follow-up to this plot. I had thought that The Discord of Gods was the final book of this series, but with all these threads of potential storylines, it seems that this tale, fortunately, hasn't yet reached its end. With Serdier and Seivan in the afterlife, Tyenso and Grist in Quirrh, and the remaining dragons and Kieran's own new draconic body, the story just has to continue. Now, I only have one more nice thing to say before I launch into my complaints. I adore Dorna, Janelle's nursemaid and Angel of Taya, as the new goddess of life, Galava. As funny as it was when Seivan became the new goddess of death after Kay Mesra refused to return her, I think that Dorna as Galava is the most perfect placement of all. I had assumed that another one of the younger people would step into the role. Dorna is the oldest one chosen, and she was one of the only ones who deserved to ascend. Dorna would be a blessing to so many with these powers. Now, for my complaining, I will start with Therin Damon. In my eyes, he really is not a likable character. I never really cared for him before, but after Galen's confrontation with his grandfather, I came to hate Therin. When Galen called him out on running away from his responsibilities and his family, Therin childishly pointed out how Galen wanted to escape with Kieran before, as if Galen hadn't been a young, abused child then, as if Therin hadn't brought most of his misery upon himself. Therin does not deserve forgiveness after a single hug with his grandson. Honestly, I cannot see Therin doing anything significant to earn forgiveness from his family. The last thing I want to talk about is just me being nitpicky, as usual. Whoever did the editing on this book did a sloppy job of it. As a casual reader, I picked up several little typos and mistakes, such as in chapter 78, where the footnote numbers were not formatted correctly and were printed too large. Maybe they were rushed, but I think quality is important here. I can forgive a couple of mistakes, but all of these little things add up. In conclusion, I absolutely loved this book and the entire Chorus of Dragons series. Already, I am dying for Jen Lians to write another book. This series has swept me off my feet from the beginning, and it continues to amaze me with every reread.